Okay guys, good evening and welcome to the Eldar Racing Group. This is the Ferrari Trofeos, and yes, we do have a special guest in the commentary box. This evening we have Championship leader, none other than Will Sutters. Unfortunately, Will has decided to, as he says, hey guys, if you can hear him. If you can't, just let us know, because we are both new to duo commentary. So I'm your host for this evening, it's per usual, Hoppers. And I will go through the points, and Will hopefully help me out with what's going on further down the field, won't you, Will?
Yeah, mate.
So, in first place is obviously you, Will, on 144, but you've decided to not take part in the championship. Is that an advantage, or is it a disadvantage?
Well, obviously an advantage to everyone else, because personally I think it's unsporting to win my own series.
Of course, yeah.
And I'd quite like to see someone such as Osman or even Holland or Jason Grant potentially take the title.
Of course. That's fair enough, mate, and it's good to have you in the commentary box for a change. It'll be a bit different for you being here than it is on track, but we'll see what happens in this week. I believe we've got a comment, so we'll have to see who the comment's from, and then we'll crack on with the points. As Darren Baldwin says, good work chaps, duo is great. Of course it is, I'm glad it is. So as long as Will doesn't talk like a brummie like I do, then we're okay. I'm sure you'll understand the accent. I'm sure you'll understand the twang. So you'll be fine.
Yeah. I'll survive.
You'll survive. So in second place we've got Gareth Morris, aka Moz. He's on 90 points, but because of obviously Will not being here or being in the commentary box, he will be probably glad to have a bit of a competition. Speaking of Moz, he's just joined the room, so we've got the two Welsh lads in the room. So he's got 90 points. So in third place is Jason Grant, none other than Bluefin. He's on 83. Then you got Craig Thomas on 79. Then you got Tom Holland, the Pineapple Head, or the Pineapple Head Kid, as I'm going to call him. He's on 75. Then you got Liam Williams. Unfortunately, Liam isn't here. He's on 55. Then you got Ryan McVeigh, aka the Hatter Lad. Unfortunately, yes, he's a Luton Town fan. Yes, I'm only joking. It's football related. You may find it funny, Will, but he's on 39. Then you got Chris Wheatley, who's actually topping the times in practice at the moment, on 38. And then you've got so this is where it gets complicated, mate, because you've got to wait for the list to load up. Then you got Jay Westall, aka Technica 7 Racing, on 29. Then you got Neil Hall, aka Noddy's mate, if we can find him. There he's in second place at the moment on 27. Then Darren Baldwin, that's going to be entering the room any moment. He won actually on the road last week due to the Huts Lads penalty at Monza, and he's on 23. Then you got Reece White, who would no longer be returning, on 22. Then you got Simon Smith on 20. Then one off was James Stephen on 16. Then Ben Smith on 9, and then Neil Smale on 5 points. So we are here at Tokyo, and by the looks of the weather, it is absolutely tipping it down with rain. What do you reckon the chances are tonight, Will?
Well, it's safe to say it's going to make quite an interesting race. Even in the drive, this track is quite unforgiving to the drivers, especially into turn 1 and that dreadful hairpin.
Yeah, of course, mate. I think
the rain really separate the boys from the men.
Yeah, of course, mate. And like we were saying before, it's that hairpin towards the end of the lap. If you get it wrong, you are going into them quite hefty barrels quite hard, and they can be quite unforgiving, if I remember rightly. Yeah. So you know, right now I'm looking at Noddy's mate on screen, and he's just clipped the wall going out of one of the turns. But you know, he's going to be on the money, I reckon. He needs to, you know, seriously relax and calm himself down. But you know, he's proved a point. You know, he seems to enjoy these Ferraris. You know, I've seen him in other races. I've raced against him, but you know, he should be fine. Bear in mind, he keeps his act together.
he's quite a consistent driver. I've noticed this so far through the series.
Yeah, of course,
Quite
mate.
consistent. Seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
He may not be up there with Osman or Moz, but he's definitely bringing in the points.
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah.
Which is just what you want to do.
It's what you want, and it's also what you feel like will be needed here, because I remember watching the earlier runs at the Nürburgring, and it was the first 2 races, and I thought, you know, with it being a fast car and someone's new to racing, it can try and hamper them, but he's slowly adapted to it, I believe. So we shall see what happens as Ben Smith just enters the room, which is good to have Ben. He's part of the Porsche Cayman group on a Friday that I host, and he's quite a specialist in the reverse grid layout, so we'll see what happens within the race layout. So if you'd like to tell us what the layouts are for this evening, Will?
So race 1 will be a 15-minute race, or before that, sorry, will be a 10-minute qualifying. Obviously fastest first takes pole, which may not be so beneficial for the track layout because it's quite fast. Second race after a 10-minute break will be reverse grid, so whoever finished at the back of the grid in the first race will be on the front row, leading the pack into turn 1.
Yep. So with the go on, carry on.
Well, the points are the same for both races.
Okay, that's cool. So, as I'm going to say, with the reverse grid, I've seen these. I've took part in these myself, and it can be potentially an eye opener for a driver that's at the back of the field. They may feel like, well, they may get the first win, but with a track like Toyko here, with it being a bit unforgiving, who knows what could happen this evening. We may see a double winner, we may not. It all depends on how they adapt to these wet conditions in race 1. It is going to be a bit unknown going straight away into the wet weather, and you know, it's probably the first time some of these guys have actually raced in the wet before, but it can be one of them.
It could be anyone, yeah.
So you see, you never know. You've got the likes of Neil Smale and Neil Hall who are new to racing, or you've got people who've got a bit of experience like the real Osman and obviously Gareth Morris and of course Ben Smith, maybe Darren Baldwin. But you know, any of these lot can win a race outright and potentially get a good point on the board. You never know what could happen. But you know, with Tokyo the way it is, it's quite interesting that some of it's open, but like as we go down the start finish line, it's actually in a tunnel, so it feels a bit, it's like it's underground, if you know what I mean. But we'll see what happens, and it's good to have Will in the commentary box. He's raced these Ferraris, I haven't, and to have the expert of Will, and he's also a British Touring Car champion in the Eldar British Touring Car League on a Friday, so we can't write him off if he was out racing, could we, Will?
Nah.
But it'll be interesting.
I think personally, I'd struggle in the wet at Tokyo.
Yeah.
Not too keen on wet conditions and cars like this.
No, and I'm going to say something with the like Craig Thomas, aka the real Osman, and of course Gareth Morris, aka Moz. They've had already an experience of a wet race this season, but they've had it in the Porsche Caymans on a Friday at Spa, and you know, it feels like yesterday since they've gone round Spa, but it's been that long now. Maybe are they going to adapt to the wet conditions, and especially with a tight and narrow street circuit within Tokyo itself, you know, some of the parts, the walls are close and the personal, but we'll see what goes on, and who knows what will go on this evening. And you know, I can't really pick a winner just yet, because obviously with the 10-minute qualifying, that's going to add a bit of spice. You know, maybe with 10-minute qualifying, it may pick up a slight bit of advantage for certain people that know the track well. It may even work into the hands of a rookie that may think, well, the wet conditions are even better. So we'll see what happens.
Who's this?
No idea,
Awesome.
mate.
Never heard of him. Let's just quickly remove him from the situation.
Oh dear. We're going to lose one. I don't think we should lose him. What tyres is he? I think it might be worth dropping him a message, mate, to be fair.
Not sure what tyres he was running, he's already...
No, I don't either, he's left, but... I'll just go off spectator a minute. I'll drop him a message, just bear with me, I'll just mute myself for a minute, you can carry on talking for a sec.
Yeah. So at the moment, Chris leads the pack by a 10th, back to Hatterlad, who's being followed by Tom Holland by under a 10th, Real Osman behind him by 3/10, Moz with the biggest gap so far, 2.1 seconds behind, Technica 2 seconds again, Noddy's mate only 1/10 behind, and ESR idle. Darren Baldwin seems to be on his first timed lap, along with Bazooks, who quite literally follows him on track. If I recall correctly, Moz took the win at the Porsche Cayman's race a few weeks ago at Spa, after James Stephen made a mistake at Eau Rouge. Now the Porsche and the Ferrari were quite similar cars, obviously Group 4, mid-engined rear-wheel drive, similar power and similar weight. But with Moz being almost 9/10 behind Chris, it's hard to tell what can happen.
It's alright, mate, I'm back. Right, so we'll see what happens with these guys, like Will's just said, with the amount of people that are out on the track. It's going to be probably interesting to see what happens. But you've got people like, obviously, Noddy's mate, that, obviously, like I say, he's new to the series, but like me and Will discussed, he's consistent in these Ferraris. He's obviously picking up his racecraft. What he needs is a stern talking to, obviously by me again, because, you know, I do feel like he does, I'm not saying crack under pressure, but I do feel like he does kind of get a bit nervous around new people. But it's part of racing. We've all been there, we've all done that, we've all got the t-shirt, shall we say, as he just loses it going out the hairpin there. But that's no fault of his own, it's just adapting to the conditions. So it'll be interesting to see whether they're on wets or inters for the first race. But ideally, if it was me, I'd stick with a wet tyre, and we'll see what goes on within the 10-minute qualification.
As I've been just rating through the pack, the drivers seemingly becoming more comfortable with the conditions. Some of them have started with traction control, people like Chris and Tom Holland.
Yeah, of
They're
course.
still on traction control, but over time they've sort of become more confident with the car, and they so it's all to play for really. The times they've set aren't exactly showing of their true pace. Is Baldwin goes 1.5 seconds personal best through the second sector. Just gets held up with behind Technica there.
I'll just try and find them out on track there. So it's quite interesting, as I say, with the going into the tunnel. It's nice and dry, but when they go out the other end, it is absolutely teeming it down with rain. And obviously, you know, it can throw a few surprises. But my money would be on as the Hatterlad, okay, right? Ray's just said the hairpin's a killer, and yeah, I agree with him. But you know, it will be interesting to see what happens. And good evening to you, my friend. I hope you are enjoying these tricky conditions, but you know, we'll see what happens. And obviously, you know, it'd be nice to have Will's experience during the commentary, and also give us a bit of feedback what he thinks round here. Obviously, once the racing and obviously qualifying gets going. And I'm just going to give you a tip, Will, make sure you've got plenty of water, because you may lose your voice.
That's good. That's a good shout, actually.
That reminds me, I need to get some myself, but might just wait till later, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you like what you see with the Eldar Sim YouTube channel, guys, just like, comment, subscribe, and it'll help us out massively, as it does every week. You know, it's been interesting. I've only been commentating for a certain amount of months now, and you know, it's been an adventure. Yes, I used to race, but you know, having a reigning British Touring Car Champion Tier 1 on a Friday in the comms box with me, and potentially was championship leader in the Ferraris alongside me, what on earth can go wrong? But you know, it's going to be exciting. I hope we do see more than, I think it's about 9 people, but it's good enough. But we'll see what happens. I think the conditions are kind of I don't think they're putting people off. I think it's just the way it is. It's, you know, it is a Wednesday, it is running up towards Christmas, and I think people either work or they've got other things going on. But you know, it's going to be really nice to see what happens. I'm sure Will agree.
Yeah, the rain will definitely create a more level playing field to the grid, I think, with the lower times as Tom Holland taps the wall on the exit of the hairpin.
Yep. So do you think it's been closer this season than Will? Because obviously we've had new people enter from potentially round 2 at Spa, but then as the season's grown and got into more of the championship, you know, we're just seeing the likes of here's our idol, okay, Darren Baldwin, that's come back. He's essentially, yes, okay, he's pulled out of racing, but he's come back to race these Ferraris over at when he was at Monza. But you know, it's good to have him here. But you know, like I say, you've had some new people. You've had the likes of James Stephen jump in just for a one-off, but then you've got some that are returning as of Monza last week. Who do you think's been a dark horse, or who do you reckon's probably going to take the mantle at the end of the season?
At the moment, I think it's going to be Moz, between Moz and Osman. They've always been together on track. They seem to be inseparable, both on Facebook chats as we talk about the races and
yeah,
on
of
track,
course,
obviously.
mate. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be one of those two.
It's going to be one of them.
I don't think Ryan McVeigh, aka Hatter Lad, has enough time to take part, as it's only today's races, then we take a week off for Christmas, and then we return at BB Raceway.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a very close race.
I think with the nature of the circuit, with some of these actually fictional, and then obviously a mixture of real and fictional, I think some of the guys prefer racing on the real life circuits because it's actual real life, and that's how they can adapt. But when you're obviously here at Tokyo, yes, it is a street circuit, it is Tokyo city centre, but you know, we can see that some of them are going to take a while. It's like with the Porsche Caymans in the final round after Christmas break, after we visited Interlagos with Dragon Trails Gardens for the finale. Some of these guys may have not raced round it, like you say, BB Raceway, obviously here at Tokyo. You know, with the tracks being so fictional, it is kind of like you've got to adapt compared to what your setup would be, like say for example visiting Monza or Spa or the Nürburgring or Brands Hatch, for example. It could be a different setup situation, it could be a different scenario, but we'll see what goes on here, because you know, I believe like the guys like you say Moz and obviously Craig and that, from adapting from the Cayman on a Friday to a Ferrari on a Wednesday, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do here to emulate what they do on a Friday. You know, it's a shame James Stephen isn't part of the grid this evening, because he's also on fire in the Caymans. He's running away with the championship, and the battles he has with Gareth Morris aka Moz, it's absolutely thrilling to see. But you know, Moz may feel like he's at home in sports cars. I've never seen him drive anything different, so who knows what could happen.
Of course, we have that Porsche and Ferrari race in the the off season.
We
So
do.
it'd be great to see the two have a nice scrap.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens around at Suzuka with the, like you say, the Ferrari and the Porsche Cayman. Two different beasts, obviously Italian stallion power with the obviously Ferrari, and then you got the German, the big giant Porsche Cayman coming in. It'll be interesting to see what the guys can do and whether the styles are adapting different. As you know, it may be one prefers one car and the other one may say, well, I actually enjoyed racing the Ferrari. You know, it is different, but we'll see what goes on this evening. We'll see what goes on for the rest of the season, and also that one-off race at Suzuka. It may be exciting to see what goes on.
Be a great way to compare the two grids as well.
Yeah.
Quite nice to see names such as Love Mecca or James Stephen have a good scrap with some of the guys who maybe don't take part in the Caymans or haven't raced them in a good.
Of course, mate. Yeah, of course, yeah. Because you've got the likes of Tom Holland, aka the Pineapple Head here. You know, I've commentated, I've raced against him. Okay, he's a good racer, he's a good kid, he knows what he's doing, but sometimes he gets caught up in argy-bargy, and sometimes it can go. And he's got his best mate, Jason Grant, with him. But it's going to be so one of them. It can be potentially either way between these two. You know, they know what they're doing, and it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see that these guys are up and coming racers. And yes, okay, I've only commentated, I've raced against them both, but it's so hard to pick a winner out of these two because they are quite quick. But like, you've got the Hattelad, aka Ryan McVeigh, jumping into a Ferrari. Yes, he's new to Eldar Sim, but he's adapted quite quickly, and I think that's one thing that we've never really noticed, we've never really talked about before. Maybe it's just the style, and maybe because he's been in another race series, I don't know what he's been in previously, but he seems to be adapting quite well with how things are going.
All the best drivers seem to be very adaptable. Obviously, Hattelad's come from Red Line Racing, as I've heard recently. And then we've got people like Baldwin who've raced BMW E30s to GT3 cars. You know, he's the Endurance Series champion.
Of course,
he obviously knows what he's doing. Being fast in one car is very different to being fast in another.
Yeah, of course. And like you're saying, you know, Baldwin coming from an E30 to a GT3. I've raced against Darren in the BMW E30s, and you know, some of the scraps I've had with him in the past when I've been potentially out near him, and you know, he's very clean. It's like he's proving a point. He's doing commentaries for the Renault Clios, and he's also doing commentaries for the GR2 on a Monday evening after Christmas and after New Year. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens within the GR2 league that sets up. You know, that's a different kettle of fish to these Ferraris. They're more like the Japanese Super GT spec, which would probably race on a track like Tokyo if it did exist.
Yeah.
So at the moment we've got Tom Holland and the Hattelad trying to get the slipstream going down the front main straight, and it is quite weird because with some of the parts of the track, even if you are going into the tunnel section and then coming out, sometimes it'll tell you there's a yellow flag somewhere. But is that because the car's in pit lane, or is it just one of them? So we're going to probably have to think, we might have to ignore that if it isn't actually displayed as a yellow flag sector.
It's quite difficult to judge if a yellow flag is in fact someone just parked on the side of the track, or it's been a genuine accident.
Yeah, of course, mate.
Coming out of the tunnel, obviously it's very hard to see as you sort of get blinded by the light as it's uphill, and obviously the sky is right in front of you.
Yeah, of course, mate.
But it's literally a straight line, so it'd be very hard to have an accident there.
Yeah.
So someone spins into the first corner, the rear lastman. Don't make a mistake. You aren't going fast enough if you aren't making mistakes, you know.
That's true. That's true, mate. That's true. That's the thing. If you're not going fast enough, you are not pushing yourself to the absolute limit. It is probably, like I say, it is probably one of the first times since some of these guys that have raced in the wet since Spa in the Caymans, and you know they are slowly getting adapted back into the wet conditions. It's actually just like a light drizzle. It's not actually hefty teaming it down with rain. But I believe from what you were saying, Will, that race 2 is going to be in the dark. And that's going to be another factor. Even though it's dry, it's actually going to be dark. So it could be interesting to see who flashes the lights to try and distract the guys. Because, yeah, the lights do shine really bright. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see who plays a tactic here. And who potentially would push on for potentially trying to escape and trying to easily up the ante, because right now it is wet and it is going to be probably from going from wet to, in a daylight time, to bone dry in the evening when it's dark. It could add more experience. The track temperature could be a bit normal, it could be a bit down, you never know, do you?
No. Having 2 completely different challenges in the same weekend is going to be quite new for some of these guys.
Yeah.
Which is going to make you another level of interesting racing.
It is.
And especially in the reverse grid, obviously you're focusing quite hard on trying to make your way through the pack without causing incidents or crashing into certain people, or
yeah, of course, yeah.
Having flashing lights illuminating everything in front of you and putting you off is going to be another level or something.
It will be. And from my own personal experience when I've done a night race myself, yes, I've flashed the lights, but I've realised if I flash them too much, it'll dim my headlights. So it's kind of like a bit of a distraction for me, because I need to see where I'm going. But for these guys, they may think, we won't revert to that tactic, but we'll try our other tactic and try and get the draft, but then try and overtake as best as we can. But you know, on a street circuit like Tokyo, it could be interesting. You know, you've got the walls quite close in some parts. You've got the hairpin at the back towards the back of the lap, and who knows what can happen. And I believe the penalty line would have to be taken before the start-finish line, if I'm correct. And the penalties will be a factor, because we've had issues in the penalties in the past. And you know, okay, fair enough, people might think, well, really the penalties were a bit harsh on us, they were a bit undone by, but you know, it's how it is, unfortunately. It's the rules of the league. The guys should know how it takes. But we'll see what happens, as Darren's just put he may disconnect because his router is flashing red, but that's a bit unfortunate. Sort it out, man. But you know, I like to have a bit of banter as well with the guys. It's, as Will probably knows, with the commentary with the stream when I've done it, and I believe we're going to be starting qualifying very shortly.
Oh yeah, that's completely forgotten about that, because it is quarter 2.
It is.
So qualifying is about to begin. So I'm just going to send a little message into the chat saying good luck, and we'll see how they perform in qualifying.
Yep, we shall, mate, indeed. So is your money on for qualifying, Will? Or don't you know yet?
It's hard to tell, really. Even if you ace that second half of the lap, you get right up to the walls, you perfect it, you've still got that ridiculously long straight to slipstream each other.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Lost time, all sorts.
Just make sure everyone gets out of pit lane. So we've got 2 still in pit lane, but I think they're just calming it down because it's the first corner. But we'll see. So I think Craig's going to be the last one to leave. Yes, he is.
So Tom Holland's backing off. I think he's going to start working with his good friend Jason Grant to slipstream, and he sort of slams into the wall. Very common mistake.
But I think that's because it's the outlap and they're on cold tyres as well, because they're not just warmed up, and I think this is what's going to happen. I think we'll see what goes on with these guys, but you know, during qualifying, yes, it is 10 minutes, but with a circuit like here, you may get potentially, I think, I have no idea because I've qualified around here, but I think it'd probably be 3 or 4 laps, you never know, but it all depends on how quick they can get through this course. But bear in mind the conditions are very slippy, and you know, even if it was dry, it potentially would be probably 3 or 4 laps anyway. But you know, 10 minutes doesn't seem like long enough to some people, as you can see on screen. Noddy's mate, and of course Pineapple, and obviously Bluefin. But I think obviously Tom and Jason are going to play the mind game and let everyone go by, and like as you say, Will, just like team up and try and get the best out of each other's lap times. You know, it is very interesting to see they both know what they're doing within qualifying, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially when what are you going to say, mate? As I was going to say, it's like it will be depending on as they go into the hairpin, because it is the hairpin is the slowest corner of the circuit, and it will be potentially jumping to try and get a good lap as well out of there to fly onto the start finish line.
It's like Chris and Ben Smith are going to have a good lap, because they're both in the slipstreams, but not too close or in that sort of window where they're not going to catch up, or they're going to be like just behind to potentially ruin their laps.
Yeah.
Because Neil Hall says, "You're not having that, mate. I'm going to take that spot back." He's going to throw it down the inside into turn 1.
Exactly, mate. Exactly, and that's the thing. You know, the guys are going to say, "You're not going to get this. You're not going to get this position. I want this position. I want to get the best out of qualifying. I want to see what goes on." But the thing is the best way to get advantage. It's the best way to know someone's disadvantage as well. But I feel like you have, you know, pushing and having someone behind you to get a toe. Yeah, okay, you're helping them, but you're going to learn a lot off people. You know how people are going to drive around you. You know, for example, Neil Hall, who's new to racing, he's going to learn off Ben Smith if Ben Smith catches him. You know, we've had a one-off Toyota race at Monza before the season began, and you know, Neil Hall was actually on a podium in one of the races. But it's nice to see some of the guys racing each other again, and that's what I like to see. So, because at the moment you've got obviously Tom and you've got Jason, but they're not even near each other to get that toe. Maybe they're just trying to, because the conditions are wet. We never know what happens. But anything can happen in these 10-minute qualifiers. We've got near enough 5.5 minutes to go. But we'll see who gets pole position here, and we'll see what Will recommends or what he thinks he would do in this situation.
Tom Holland's getting a bit of a switchback on Neil Hall, who spins out into him.
Spills out into the hairpin there. I think he had, I don't know whether he had a bit of an issue, but I think he got into the wrong gear. But we'll see what happens. But, you know, who knows what will happen as the Heart lads done it.
Oh, yeah. 3 tenths ahead.
Yeah, it's quite a good time from the Heart lads. But then you've obviously got Bluefin outsmarted Tom Holland there, hasn't he, for his lap time there.
Bumped you off. Bazik seemed to run run deep into that last hairpin and
Yeah,
caused a sort of domino effect and caused Neil to
spin out.
spin into.
Yeah, but that's going to be the nature of the circuit, especially with it being wet. You know, as Tom Holland clips the wall, and obviously Jason Grant's behind him. But these two good mates of each other, the real mates in real life, and it's nice to see that he's to bring his mates along to join the series. But you know, I feel like there is, and look at what Craig's just done here, the real Osman, with a 2-minute 22.202. That's quite a good time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. Did he have the slipstream on maybe, or was that just from pure pace?
It could be because of his pace, but it could be because he has slipstream. We'll see where he is. He's actually it's hard to tell who he's nearby because they're so spread out. But with the pace he's got, you know, he's a race winner in the Caymans. He's obviously using that to his advantage. But obviously, you know, it may be he picked up a toe, or it may be because he's had clear air and he's just cracked on. He's probably got a good setup round here, to be fair. Or he's got a good way of knowing what to get out of these Ferraris on a wet surface.
Osman's gone 0.6 purple, which is amazing.
Yeah, as he nearly drifts it going out of the corner there.
Moz comes over the line and takes a pole, finishing pole. Great lap from him.
It's amazing to see what, you know, because obviously Gareth Morris knows how to stick a car on pole position, but the Hattelad beats him there, which is, it just shows that. But the Hattelad's obviously gone into pit lane. I don't know whether he's wanting to sit out the rest of the session or not, but it's going to be interesting. But the Pineapple Head, okay, Tom Holland, you know, you've raced against him, Will, but what's going to go through the minds of these guys, and what do you think would happen?
For Tom Holland, he's not going to be happy with that. He's
not. No.
Less than a 10th. You can easily find a 10th or 2 around here, especially in difficult conditions like this. There's a reason why he's got that number 1 in his car. He's the Sports Car Cup Series champion. He's beat drivers like Butler and Jason Grant, obviously. So he sure as hell knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But he's gonna want to find that extra time. He's gonna want to get to the line before the time remaining runs out.
Yeah. So as we are approaching to 1 minute 30 remaining, like you're saying with Tom Holland, he is the reigning, obviously, champion of the Wednesday Night League. But you know, he I've seen him race. I've raced against him. He knows how to do what he needs to do. But you know him more well than I do, Will. But I feel like, you know, he needs to, you know, set back and get back into that groove as best as he can. I could be wrong, don't get me wrong, if I am wrong, do say, but I think he needs to get into that groove, but he will get there. But I think with qualifying, how tight it is round here, and, you know, Moz is like 43 tenths up into the sector, but we'll see what he can do here. But he's you know, with going back to Tom, he needs to realise he can get back into that groove, and he wants to jump, he wants to get into the sharp end, he wants to chase up, doesn't he? Yeah,
he's a great driver. It's just a case of learning to adapt to the car. He's not had the best of seasons from a reigning champion.
Yeah, of course.
He just needs that breakthrough. He works on a rhythm. He needs to find that sweet spot, and
he needs to get back into that rhythm. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's what we need to realise in the racing. You know, the guys that are racing, okay, fair enough, qualifying is now ended, but the ones that are on the lap now are going to go for it. This is where it gets interesting, because now qualifying is essentially ended here, but the guys that are still out on track, is it going to be good enough? Is it going to be working to the advantage? You know, you've got guys like Gareth Morris in third place. You know, he used James Stephen potentially pitting at Brands Hatch, I believe, in the Porsche Caymans, and you know, he was waiting to see what James was doing, because James was obviously on the wrong tyres. There's no fault of his own, he probably didn't realise he was on them, but James Stevens still pipped him to pole position because of getting that lap in towards the end. But it'll be interesting to see what some of these guys can do towards the end of the obviously qualification.
Just watching him now, he definitely seems to know what he's doing. He just took a more wet weather suitable line to that right hander. You know, in the wet weather you always want to be just off the line when you're braking or turning in. You don't want to be on the regular used part of the tarmac.
Yeah, of course.
That's where all the oil is. There's less grip.
Yeah.
He comes out the final corner. He's half a second perfect. That's crazy.
It's nuts, isn't it? Because I don't know what it is, but every time I've seen Gareth qualify, he's always pulled it out of the bag, even if it's on the last moment or second. But we'll see what he does as he crosses the line. That's a good lap, that, I must say.
That is a good lap.
Because he got it he just got it right into that hairpin. But you know, we'll see what Ryan can do here, but Ryan isn't going to improve on his time. He's obviously made a mistake. But we'll see what goes on in race 1. But you know, like I say, it is going to be wet, and it's surprisingly how many people and how proximity it is. But we'll see what goes on.
It's going to be hard to start on this dry surface, especially on wet tyres.
Well, that's the thing, it's dry under here, but when they get to turn 1 it's going to be wet. So we'll see what happens. As we've got Gareth Morris on pole position, this will be probably nerve-wracking for him. But we'll see who's going to make a good start. Revs are building. And
it's a good start from Grant by the looks of it.
Yeah. Then you've got the Hattelad, aka Right McVeigh, jumping into first place already. You got a good start there as well. So you've got the obviously Jason and obviously Tom, they're battling, but they've obviously got their moves. You know, it's kind of weird watching the screen because Moz hasn't got his wiper on, so he's probably thinking, well, I don't really need it on, it's not wet enough yet. But he's been outsmarted by obviously Jason Grant and obviously Tom Holland. But you know, this is going to be really close. But Moz has got himself, I believe he's got himself back up into second. So we'll go through what's happening at the back of the field if Will's watching the back of the field.
Seems like Technica's had a bit of a rough start. I don't know if he tapped the wall or something, but he's dropped behind Neil.
Yeah.
Is he going to have a look on Ben Smith? It's not too much of a low-taking spot, so it's good that he didn't go for that.
Yeah. So we'll see what's happening back at the front, but you've got the Hattie lad and you've got Chris Wheatley and obviously Ryan battling for fifth and sixth place, but then you've obviously got Craig and obviously Tom Holland up the road. But it's going to be interesting because Jason Grant and Gareth are having a battle for first place at the moment as they go towards the hairpin for the first time. As the Hattelad gets it a bit crossed up, but he's kept it on and he's kept it out of the wall there. But that's going to cost him a bit of time, so we'll see what happens going into the hairpin. For the first time, you've got Gareth trying to overtake Jason Grant there, but Jason's just closed the door there, but gets a bit twitchy because of the conditions. But we'll see what's going back as Craig's, it's still in fourth, but he's got the Hattelad and obviously Chris Wheatley in behind him. So we'll go what's towards the back, as I think Neil's still behind Ben Smith, isn't he, Will?
Yeah, he got ahead briefly, but I think he got on the throttle a bit too eagerly coming out of the last corner and sort of threaded the needle and went past him.
So
takes a second move on.
Yeah. So as we see the real Osman, like Craig Thomas, just get past Tom Holland, and the Hatter lad's also there, and you've also got Chris Wheatley, so it could make it 4 cars into one of the curves in a moment or so, but we'll see what goes on as Moz is still trying to get past Jason Grant up ahead, but the Hatter lad gets it a bit sideways. Flashes the lights, but he gets past Craig Thomas there, but we'll see what's going on further back down the grid. As ESR Idol smashes it into the wall there, but I'm sure Will's going to keep us entertained with the back, and we'll see what goes on up in the front.
Maybe there was a bit of contact.
It looked like there might have been a bit of contact, but there's been a bit. I don't know what's gone on there. I'm just going to check the replay on basically what happened to Jason Grant going out of the chicane. I don't know whether he had contact with Moz, but nah, he's just lost it, and it just spun him into the wall, which has now lost him quite a few positions. He's now in 6th place because you've got Gareth and of course Craig in 1st and 2nd, so the 2 Welsh lads out in 1st and 2nd, and then you've got the Hatter lad, and then obviously Pineapple Head, and obviously Chris Wheatley in 5th, but then you've got obviously Tom and of course Ryan battling for 3rd and 4th, but if they're not careful, Chris Wheatley will jump on as we go into the hairpin for the 2nd time. So what's happening at the back then, Will?
Ben Smith seemed to pull away slightly from Neil Hall. I think Darren Baldwin's, he made a mistake going under the bridge in the middle sector. He dropped it slightly bit further back from Technica, but he's obviously caught it back up. He seems a lot more confident in going into that last corner.
Yep. So we've had a change for 2nd place. Tom Holland has got past the real Osman, and the Hatter lad and Chris Wheatley have overtaken him. So it looks like Craig has dropped down into 5th place, but he's actually gaining the gap as Tom Holland is under pressure from Brian McVeigh, and of course Chris Wheatley. Gareth Morris still leads this race, but you've got this battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and potentially 5th place. This could actually technically end in tears if we're not careful. But it's going to be interesting because these conditions, it may be interesting. It may throw some of these guys off, but we'll see what goes on. As Chris and the Hatter lad still trying to chase down Tom Holland, but Craig's also there joining in. So Moz is extending that lead. So he knows for a fact these guys in behind him are going to potentially. Just let him get that lead faster and faster. What's going on at the back, Will?
Darren Baldwin hasn't quite made any moves onto Technica. He's made about a 10th so far this lap, but it's not too easy. It's not too easy to gain time through that first sector. It's literally just 2 corners.
Yep. So you got the Hatter lad in 2nd place at the moment, but then you got Tom Holland, and of course Chris Wheatley, and obviously Craig Thomas for 3rd, 4th and 5th. So basically these 3 are going to have a battle. I believe Jason Grant will probably catch on to these guys, but we'll see what's going on. But I believe Tom Holland's got a bit sideways going out of one of the turns, which has allowed Chris Wheatley to gain up and potentially catch him up in the orange and black Ferrari. But it will be interesting. I believe just going back slightly, we've got Moz still leading the race here, but he's got the Hatter lad aka McVeigh coming up near him, but there's still that battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. But we'll see what's going on at the back, and we'll obviously join Will for a bit of commentary at the back. Ben Smith, aka Bassox, is trying to chase down, obviously 6th place Jason Grant, but then you've got Noddy's mate, and I believe ESR Idol's now got past Technica Racing, so it's going to be
Technica just lost the back end coming out of that last corner. Obviously wanted to get a good exit and get past Neil, but who seems to be his rival this season. But
yeah.
now Darren's going to snatch that opportunity from him and take a move on the right side, going through the tunnel.
Yep. So it looks like Neil Hall is going to try and defend, but at the moment I think ESR Idol's got the move covered. Yes, he has, but we'll see what's going on. I believe Tom Holland and Chris are still battling for third and fourth, but the Hasselblad slowly but surely is getting into Mozzie's lead. But you know, these conditions are atrocious, and it's going to be potentially seeing what goes on. But you've obviously got Craig Thomas and you've got Jason Grant also going to be in the running if these two make mistakes, but we'll see what goes on. And potentially we've got 6 minutes 40 on the clock, so anything can happen between now and the finish, but it's going to be really exciting. What do you reckon, Will?
It's looking like it's all to play for. Hatter lads keeping a good margin to Moz, which is going to be quite a mental challenge to him.
Yeah.
Noddy's mate, Technica and Darren have all made mistakes so far this race, so
yeah,
even though the gap is still quite large between the three, one mistake can change everything.
Of course. Yeah. Speaking of the back, obviously Neil Hall's obviously made a mistake because he was actually 9th place. He's now in 10th, so he's obviously made a mistake somewhere, or the conditions aren't playing into the hands of him. But you know, you've got obviously the Hasselblad, and you've got Tom Holland, and you've got Chris, and then obviously Craig forming a queue as to go out of the hairpin. So it could potentially be 4 cars, maybe 5 cars if Bluefin gets his act together and joins this group. But it could go either way with 5.5 minutes. But you know, the conditions are probably still not ideal, but they're obviously thinking, well, we may have to see what happens, we may have to persevere. But you know, it's been really frustrating. I believe Neil Hall has actually now dropped out, which is a bit unfortunate. It's not, you know, he's probably struggling, but it's not really going to do him any credentials. So we'll see.
Especially in this battle between him and Technica.
Yeah.
In the standards.
But as you can see, the Hatter lad's actually done the fastest lap with a 2 minute 21.715. So that just shows that, you know, Ryan's actually on the charge. But you've still got Moz leading the race at the moment. But it's going to be interesting as we've got this battle between Tom Holland and obviously Chris. But obviously Craig's going to be lurking in the background, as you can see. But you know, like I say, anything can happen with 4.5 minutes in this first race. But you know, Will, it can, like you say, it can go either way. But like it's a bit of a shame. I hope he does come back next week and potentially sees what he's made of. But you know, unfortunately it's just the way Neil is, and it's not really good. He was actually having a good battle with some of the people, but he just needs to realise that, you know, it's not all about giving up. But you never know. But we'll see what happens in the reverse grid. At the moment it's looking like Jay Westall, aka Technica 7 Racing, will be on pole position, depending on what happens in the remaining 3 minutes 40, should I say. But what do you reckon is going to happen, Will?
I think Moz will extend that gap at the front. I've just been checking on that briefly, and it's gone from about 2 seconds to 2.7. Obviously Chris Osman and Tom Holland are as Chris
makes the move. Yeah, I was just about to say that he's made the move on Tom Holland going out of the hairpin there. So really, it's like, you know, you got Moz, even though he's leading the race, but the gap does come down, but then it does grow again. But this is the nature of this circuit, and it potentially would be, as he's actually set the fastest lap actually of the race with a 2 minute 21.038 with just under 3 minutes to go now in this first race. But it just shows how quick these guys can adapt to these Ferraris. You know, you may have raced let's say a Focus ST last season, but to jump into a Ferrari, it may be a new situation. It may be potentially one of them. But so far, I've not really seen any outrageous manoeuvres. But you've got obviously Tom and you've got Chris still battling for the final place on the podium, and they're actually banging doors and almost taking the wing mirrors out of each other. They're trying to grab each other's probably passenger's door to open. But you know, it's going to be exciting to see who gets the final spot on the podium. But then if these two make a mistake, you've got obviously Craig Thomas behind, so it could give him his podium as well. But you never know. And then obviously you've got Jason Grant, obviously in 6th place. So, and then you've got Darren Baldwin, and then obviously Ben Smith, and then you've got Jay Westall still there. But it's going to be exciting to see what happens with a 1 minute 42 on the clock. So who are you tipping then, Will?
I think Moz has got this in the bag now. If you look at his timing sheets, he's just been getting faster and faster and faster.
Yep.
That's something special. This is a brilliant showing from Moz. I don't know if he's practiced it this week or what, but something's just clicked, and he's found a rhythm. He's found something in the car or in himself, and he's just pulled a massive gap to Hatter. And
yeah,
it's the driver of a real champion, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think like you say, you know, something's just clicked with him. I think it's whether because he's not got his arch nemesis James Stephen from the Caymans with him, but you know, the way the battle in the Caymans, you know, between himself and obviously James Stephen, but it obviously seems to be there's obviously something going on, something he's clicking in a Ferrari, but maybe it's just sports cars and maybe it's his favourite discipline. But with just 30 seconds remaining, but they are going on to the final lap, so it's going to be interesting. But like I say, you have got this battle between obviously Tom Holland and Chris, and obviously Craig. I knew Craig would eventually catch these guys because these two are banging doors. But look at this, Craig is going to make it 3 wide going up the hill. This is going to be close. But as you can see, Tom Holland's lost out there. He's actually lost out to Craig there, and obviously Chris Wheatley. But then they've made it 3 wide. But Tom Holland and Chris Wheatley have a bit of an issue going down the hill there. But it's gonna be really interesting come race 2. But obviously, is Tom playing a mind game and trying to drop back a bit so he gets a better start for race 2? Do you reckon?
Could well be. At the moment he looks to be on the same row of the grid as his good friend Jason Grant. So those two could maybe work together and overtake the likes of Baldwin and Bazix and Jay Westall. Yeah.
But saying that, you've got Darren Baldwin trying to chase down Jason Grant at the moment, so that could change. But obviously, I think some of the conditions favour some people, some don't. But obviously, saying that, Darren Baldwin's now got past Jason Grant there. But we'll see. We'll try and cut back to that battle if we can. But we've got Gareth Morris now going down into the hairpin for the final time. Like you say, Will, I think he has clicked with the Ferrari. He has something's gone on here to make him actually do really well. You know, you've got the Hattelad McVeigh just going a bit wide into the final turn, but it's not really going to affect him. It's cost him to catch up to Moz though, but it's not really cost him to get the real Osman. But then Tom Holland, he's now in 4th place. But you know, anything can happen. But is he going to try and catch Craig Thomas, or is Craig just going to take out and as Moz takes another victory? But then you've got the Hattelad, you know, he's got to be careful because he did showboat and lost his victory. But Tom Holland actually got 3rd place. But that was actually a good battle towards the end between them 3, I believe.
Always Jason Grant going to have to run on Darren over the line. It's going to be real close. Looks like Darren just takes it.
Yeah, just takes it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens within the second race of the evening. But you know, so far so good between these guys. They've not really had much penalties going on, but they've not really had penalties this time. It could be because of the nature of the circuit as well.
Could well be. But now it's drying up for the next race, so it's going to be a completely different challenge for the second. Let's see who can rise to it.
So we'll see what goes on. So we'll see what happens. Don't forget to change the things on here, mate.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that now. Grid order, reverse grid.
So I'll just, when that loads up, I'll go through the race 1 results and then we'll see what goes on. I'll grab the replay as well in a minute. I'll grab the replay. And then, so this was race number 1 of what round are we, Will? Is it round number 5?
Round 5, yeah.
Yeah, round 5 of the Eldar Ferrari Trofeos. So you had Gareth Morris take his, probably, I think it's his first victory of the season, I'm not too sure, in the Ferrari Trofeos. Then you have Ryan McVeigh, aka the Hatterlad. And then you had Tom Holland, the real Osman, and Chris Wheatley battle for 3rd place. But Tom come out on top to find his pace, and I'll tell you what, it is going to be interesting to see what he does in race 2. Then you had ESR Idol, aka Darren Baldwin, in 6th place. Then you had Bluefin, aka Jason Grant, and then Ben Smith and Jay Westall. Unfortunately, we lost Neil Hall during the race, but Gareth Morris did a fastest lap on lap number 5 with 2:21.038, and it will be interesting to see what they can do in race number 2. Race number 2 is going to be dry and it is going to be dark, and I believe there is going to be some fireworks, Will.
Oh, definitely. There's going to be a lot of battles to be settled within this second race, as we saw Tom Holland and Chris Clements got a bit argy-bargy in the later stages of race 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, Simon Doors are, like you said, taking each other's wing mirrors off. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how those two compare.
Yeah. And as I can see, just watching on the stream while we get ready for race 2 with it actually dark, it's looking likely the lights are going to dazzle some of the guys if they flash the lights, like I was saying before. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's lit everywhere, but you know, it's going to be interesting because some of the lights and some of the cars may clash with obviously the orange street lights, but then you've got the white lights at the hairpin, so it may be able to see and create a gap. But we'll see what goes on. But it's, like I say, it's going to be interesting. And obviously you've got the tunnel section which is brightly lit, so it'll be close and keeping an eye on some of these guys, what's going on. So I believe we're having a 10-minute, is it 10 minutes, Will?
Yeah, we'll have a 10-minute break.
And we'll see
just
what...
to let some of the guys adapt.
Yep. Because it is going to take some time to adapt to the nighttime conditions. I believe the Hutter lad said he got pushed in the first corner, 1st to 15th. It looks like there was a bit of contact, but you know, we'll go through it, I'll view it, and we'll see what happens. But so far so good from these guys. They're actually really enjoying these races, I believe, and you know, it is, like we say, with it now dark, it's going to be more interesting than the wet race just a few moments ago.
Does look quite good, I can't lie, especially on Ben Smith's car.
Yeah. The only downside is Chris Wheatley's car's a bit slightly camouflage. I couldn't even get my words out.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm sure we'll find a way, and we'll pick them off one by one. But you know, it'd be interesting to see what the guys can do from up the front of the field towards the back of the field. You know, can Moz make history and come through the field, or is he going to get held up, or is it going to be tactics? So we'll see what goes on.
I wouldn't take Darren Bolden out of contention. We saw last week he's brilliant in the second race. Obviously he didn't win it on track, but keeping consistent, finishing second is definitely nothing to look down upon.
Yeah, well that's the thing. Like we were saying, Darren didn't win on track, but he won because of the Hatlad's penalty, which, you know, okay, you win by someone having a penalty, but you'd like to take a win exactly taking a win how it should be, by claiming it, not taking it by a penalty situation. But from what I've seen tonight, you know, the guys have actually behaved themselves, I think, because they know it's a street circuit, they know it's going to be wide in some places, it could be narrow, but, or is it because the first race was wet and it was kind of, the conditions were a bit not ideal, but I can see a bit more moves in this race, if you know what I mean. But, you know, it is going to be interesting to see. You know, we've got Jay Westall on pole position. You know, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. But, you know, anything, like I say, anything can happen. We potentially will have a brilliant race and obviously reverse grid. But, like I say, it's dark. They don't really want to flash the lights too much, because it could easily be all or nothing. They may flash the lights and then it dims their lights, and they might think, where am I going? They might end up way into Tokyo City Centre. but we'll see what goes on. But, you know, you've driven these cars, it's probably a new situation for you commentating on a nighttime race than it would be if you were out on the field.
Yeah, I'd say so, because it's very different to a day race. Sorry, just having that in the back of your head, it's dark.
Yeah,
is a bit of a burden, and if you can completely remove that from contention and just focus on the track itself, and just focus on what you're doing and how you're driving, then you should be okay.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do here, because, you know, you've got, obviously, like I say, it could be the track temperature may have dropped, you know, because it is dark, but the faster guys are at the back now, and this is what I like about the reverse grids, because you got the faster guys at the back, you got sort of the, I'm not going to say slower guys, because it might be offensive to some of them, but you've got the potentially the mid-pack battle that we've had previously up at the sharp end now, so it might be their chance to shine. But, you know, like I say, it's going to be interesting. It will be potentially fantastic to see with 1 minute to go till we start race 2, and, you know, I'm not going to put a bet who's going to win, but I'd love to see someone try and get further up and improve and say, right, let's show what I'm made of. But who knows what can happen? You know, it's going to be interesting, I'll tell you that.
The second race is always challenging. You've not only got to focus on being fast lap after lap, but you've got to focus on when to overtake and when to go for moves, what corners if your opponents are weaker at. You've got to focus on more than just yourself.
Yeah.
You've always got to take into account what else is going on around you.
Yeah, of course.
Because you could very easily capitalise upon a big crash, getting a good few positions, and you know, it's sort of playful.
Yeah. It's interesting how it goes from day to night, but you know, it'd be nice if you could have that transition, but it's not going to happen.
Sort of like in the old games, have it to transition.
Yep. So what's Jay Westall going to do? I bet he's nervous sitting on pole position. But you know, the bright pink machine, it's almost bright as the lights around the circuit. As we get ready now, let's see what goes on here as he makes a good start. But then you've got Jason Grant, obviously made a good start this time. He's obviously nailing them starts, and he's obviously wanting to prove a point. But then you've got ESR Idol and Ben Smith up behind him at the moment, but we'll see what goes on towards the back of the field as well, as Jason Grant tries to make a move into, I believe that's turn number 1. I'm not too sure, because with the nature of this circuit it's going to be hard to tell. But you've got ESR Idol and Ben Smith, and of course Jay Westall as the pineapple head there clips the wall. Ben Smith and of course Technica Racing have a bit of a battle, but Chris Wheatley's up into second place there, so anything could...
a bit of bunch in between Baldwin, Technica. I don't know if Tom Holland was involved there, but
it's going to be hard to... There was a lot of cars there, and yeah, so it is going to be interesting. I believe Moz is already up into 7th, but you know, he's... Oh, there's a bit of squeezing there. I believe Craig and was it Technica? But then obviously
Darren and Technica was sort of pushed into a wall.
Right.
I don't know if Technica tried to throw it down the inside and outbrake himself, but as he came across, I think Osman got caught in the crossfire and shoved into the wall.
Yeah. Which is obviously got Darren Baldwin at back at the moment. He'll capitalise and he'll gain these. But then you got Moz trying to make the move into the hairpin. He's already up into potentially now 4th place, maybe 3rd place. But there's a lot of battles here. But also the Hatter lad is also in this battle. So you got Chris Wheatley and obviously Jason Grant up in front. And then you've got obviously ESR Idol and Technica Racing battling for 8th and 9th. We'll just watch this battle briefly and then we'll see what goes on up at the front. But you know, the times are coming down because obviously the track's now drier, so it's going to be less times than it was in race 1 when it was wet. But you know, we see Technica Racing there and Darren Baldwin chase each other up the hill, but it's going to be spectacular to see. But there's been a change for potentially 3rd place, and obviously 1st placers would just join this battle. The Hatter lad, Moz and the Pineapple head, and of course Ben Smith still battling, but you know, we've got Bluefin's obviously dropped down to 2nd, so it's going to make it interesting to see what goes on. Craig Thomas is in 7th, and I believe Darren's now got past Jay Westall again, but these two are having a battle. So this is probably the mid-pack battle if it was a proper more fuller grid. But it's going to be interesting to see what these two can do within these roughly 11 minutes 40 remaining. But we'll cut back to that battle in a moment or two. But you've got the Hatter lad in 3rd place at the moment, and you've obviously got Gareth and obviously Tom Holland. But they're looking very twitchy at the moment. I don't know what you reckon, Will.
It seems very high paced. This mid battle here. Hatter lad seems to be all over the road.
Yeah.
Keep Tom Holland behind him. As Tom Holland briefly goes to the left, slams the door shut on Moz.
Yeah.
Isaacs is going to capitalise on this, and the real Osman, who seemingly had a bad start, is going to catch up to this little group.
Yeah.
Isaacs outbreaks himself and gets the cut back, going onto the start finish straight.
Yeah. But as we see, Tom was trying to make a move for third place, but he ran a bit wide, and then he's now got the Hattelad and obviously Moz behind him. So it's going to be sandwiched between these two. He might have to think of a different strategy, do you reckon?
Yeah, he's going to try to go for a move into the first corner. He's going to bump draft him for a bit, potentially get the pair closer towards Jason Grant and Chris Clements at the front.
Yeah.
But with 10 minutes left and less than 3.5 seconds separating the top 7, it's
all or nothing, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
We'll just go back to this battle. ESR Idle and Technica Racing at the moment for 8th and 9th. They've got a bit of a gap from each other, but as you can see, Ben Smith and obviously Craig the Real Osman, these guys are obviously battling in the Porsche Caymans as well as obviously here in the Ferraris. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You still got obviously as Moz has got past the Pineapple Head. We didn't see what went on there, but obviously as you can see, Jason Grant's backing them up together as well. But this is going to be probably one of the hardest races, because you still got Chris Wheatley, even though he's in first place, but the gap's coming down. But you still got this battle. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as Moz tries to do the triple overtake there, which he's actually done, which is actually a great move. But like I say, this is what's going to happen. But I do feel it's a bit argy-bargy towards this 3rd, 4th, 5th and potentially 6th place at the moment, but anything can happen within these guys, as we've got Darren Baldwin still in 8th place, but he could capitalise on the people backing up in ahead of him. But Technica Racing as well, anything can happen. It's a bit of a shame he's at the back of the field, but he'll pick up his results, and that's what we like to see. But I believe Moz is trying to chase down Chris Wheatley at the moment, but it's going to be interesting to see. But Moz has got the fastest lap so far.
It's not Chris Clements, is it? Oh, no. I feel so bad because I've been pulling Chris Clements the entire race. Oh.
Never mind, mate. We all make mistakes. No idea.
That?
I don't know. No idea, mate. No idea, but never mind. But you see, you've got Moz, you've got Ryan, you've got Jason Grant, and you've also got Tom battling. But this is what I mean. You got 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th battling it out, and it could go either way if we're not careful. But as we've got 7 minutes 42 on the clock, but it's gonna be interesting because these guys are pushing on. You've got the 2 best mates within Tom Holland and Jason Grant still battling. These two do obviously know when it comes to racing, they forget the mates and actually have a rivalry on track, I believe. But as Ben Smith clips the wall there out of shot there, but I believe Ben Smith's now going to be under threat from Darren Baldwin if we're not careful. But we'll try and focus on the battle at the front if we can. But at the moment we'll just see what Ben Smith and obviously Darren Baldwin do, as Darren makes the move into 7th place, but Ben Smith will fight back. These two have actually raced each other before, so they'll know how it is between each other. Jay Westall's at the back, but at the moment, as you can see, the Hattelad's now got past Tom Holland for 3rd place again. But this is the battle that it's going to be hard to focus on what's going on, because you got the first 2 and then you got the 3rd and 4th, and you got 5th and 6th potentially. So it's going to be fantastic to see what goes on. But what do you reckon, Will?
It's definitely going down to the wire. Tom Holland's gaining a lot on Chris at the front. Chris Wheatley, I know now. He's already gained 3/10 just from bump draft and hitting 170, whereas Chris is hitting only 160.
Yeah,
it's gaining a lot of time.
As you can see, Jason Grant there is now made the move on Craig Thomas there, but you know, it's interesting to see. I thought I was going to end up in tears, but it just seems to be that Moz is actually now dropped down into 4th place. We didn't see what happened to Moz, but it's just showing that how equally these guys are all bunched up now.
Yeah, the top 4, and so separated by half a second. This has to be some of the closest racing in ESR at the moment.
Yeah, it must be.
Fit a cigarette paper.
No, you can't, can you? You can't even park a bus between that gap either. But it's going to be interesting. Yeah, you know, Tom's now pushing himself, but he needs to realise if he keeps making mistakes, he's going to invite Moz to the party. He's going to actually technically have Moz as an uninvited guest. But it's going to be absolutely fantastic to see what goes on. But you know, you've got obviously Darren Baldwin still in 7th place. And then you've got Ben Smith in 8th, and then Jay Westall rounded up the field. But like we say, these guys, but you see the Hatlad and Tom Holland still battling. Chris Wheatley's still there in 1st place, but you know, it's still, he's opening the gap, but then it closes down. But then as we see the Hatlad, actually I think it was the Hatlad or Gareth Morris flashing the lights there, but this is where it's going to get really interesting. But then you got obviously the real Osman, aka Craig Thomas, and of course Jason Grant battling for 5th and 6th at the moment. But this is going to be fantastic stuff as Jason Grant tries to push on and tries to make the move stick. But he's thinking about having that draft, but obviously Craig's going to close the door with 4 minutes remaining in this race. But this is spectacular stuff. But you've got the Hattelad, the Pineapple Head, aka Tom Holland, in 2nd place, and obviously Gareth Morris in 4th. But look at this, it's going to be potentially a battle for the lead if we're not careful. But I believe Tom's got a bit sideways there, clips the wall, and it allows the Hattelad to get back into 2nd place there. So we shall see. But I believe Gareth Morris is going to chase these guys down as well. I'll just go further back a minute between the real Osman and of course Jason Grant. They're battling and they're obviously trading paint. You know, 2 shades of the same colour. But it's going to be really interesting to see what goes on. But you got Darren Baldwin, he's in 7th place, but you know, he's doing this for fun, I believe, and you know, he's doing a fantastic job just keeping it on the circuit and keeping it out the wall. As we see, I believe there was a bit of, I think Craig clipped the wall there, which kind of, I'm not too sure, but we'll see what's going out in front. So you've got Tom Holland, yeah,
Tom Holland's on the outside.
So that's going to be interesting going into the hairpin because they're that close to each other, and the Hattelad's also there. But Chris Wheatley's still out in front, leading this race. But you've got that.
He's outbreaking himself.
Yes, he has. Yes, and the Hattelad's done exactly the same going into the hairpin there. But
covered 2nd, right? But the chance of a slipstream may well be
may have been gone now. But you've got Moz trying to gain onto Ryan there in 3rd place, but we'll see what goes on. But it's going to be interesting, I believe. These obviously Craig and Jason are still battling, so these 2 are still battling out, and it's going to be probably interesting with just under 2 minutes to go now. But you know, this is going to be interesting. You've got ESR Idol chasing these 2 down as well if they're not careful, but we'll see what goes on. But look at this, Tom Holland, Ryan, Chris, and of course Gareth. But this is a battle for 1st place. We need to keep an eye on what's going on here for a moment or 2. But this is going to be fantastic stuff. But Ryan's out in the lead at the moment. Obviously Chris has now had the advantage of leading the race, but whether he's made a mistake or he's just been caught at the wrong moment, he's caught napping. But you've got Moz trying to make a move on the Hattelad for 1st place, but this is fantastic stuff from these 4.
I can't agree more. Moz is going to want that 2nd win so badly. He's going to
want it.
Take that position. Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna want to take the second win, but the thing is, he's gonna have to work for it as they go up the hill and then obviously down towards the hairpin. It's going to be interesting to see what happens at the hairpin this time round.
It's going to be close to see if it's going to end up going to another lap or not.
Yeah, it will be.
He's really going to want to take that from Ryan.
He's going to
that first race.
Which he does. But it's going to be spectacular to see if it does go to another lap. These guys will potentially have enough time, but it all depends. But you've got obviously the real Osman, and of course Jason Grunt, and of course ESR Idol still battling for 5th, 6th and 7th.
I think it's going to go to the line.
But it's going to go to the line. But what happened there? But Moz has still got another lap. So Moz takes he's timed that to perfection. He's timed that to
victory lap there.
He's got a victory lap, but that was absolute close. But you've got ESR Idol in 7th, Jason Grunt in 6th, then you got Craig in 5th, then you got Tom in 4th, then you got Chris and Ryan in 2nd and 3rd, and obviously Jay and Ben in 9th and 8th. But Moz has got a victory lap. He's actually done one more lap. He's probably thinking, I'm out on my own now, I don't have to worry about them lot behind me. But
by the looks of it, he's still giving it some welly.
Yeah, he probably still wants to give it some wants to show it off and wants to essentially show what he's made of, and we'll see what goes on. But
Ryan's go back to Jay Westall for a minute, because he hasn't been the fastest person on the grid.
No,
that's safe to say, but he's a great guy, and he by the looks of it, he managed to pull something out of his hat and get a little time with Bazix, who, you know, Ben isn't a slow driver.
No.
He showed that last week at Monza.
Yeah, he did.
Just put up the fight. So good job to Jay for that.
Yeah. So according to what Ryan's put in the live chat on the stream, he's really annoyed with that. The line was too early, so I think he's kicked himself because he's not won a race. And I think that's kind of upset him, really, but it's the nature of this circuit, and you know, there's always next week. So, but you know, Moz will be happy taking a double win. You know, it will be interesting to see. Definitely. It'll be interesting to see what he thinks going into the next round, and potentially, you know, fair play to these guys. It has actually been probably this race and probably the first race as well. You know, they've been having battles galore, even though the conditions have been a bit tough. It looks like, you know, Moz has lapped them all according to the results, but it's just one of them, and, you know, fair play to him. He's gained 8 places to take another victory, and I'll tell you what, that 101 car is going to be a force to be reckoned for the rest of the season.
Definitely. It's going to be real close coming into this last week.
Yeah.
I don't know how close Osman's going to be to him now.
No, but it'll be really interesting. So,
by the looks of it seems he's going to have the championship and one hand on the championship.
Yeah, so I'll go through the final results of race 2. This is round number 5 of the Eldar Sim Ferrari Trofeos here at Toyko Expressway on the East Outer Loop. We have Moz, who took a well-deserved victory. It was a battle between the top 4, and unfortunately Hattelad thought he had it on the line, but unfortunately the line got the better of him. So Gareth takes a well-deserved victory, then Hattelad takes 2nd, then Chris takes 3rd, then you've got Tom Holland and Craig in 4th and 5th, then you've got Jason Grunt and Darren Baldwin in 6th and 7th, Ben Smith and Jay Westall round up the field in 8th and 9th. The Hattelad did a 2 minutes 6.402 on that number 6, so he gets a point for the fastest lap, and we'll see what happens. Is it next week, Will?
We'll have a week off for the Christmas break.
Of course we will.
I think that's an ESR-wide week off.
So where are we after the Christmas break, my friend?
We're going to another Japanese circuit, or apparently a Japanese track, but Broadbean Raceway. Sorry.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at the BB Raceway. It will be potentially on Japanese turf as well, so maybe the Land of the Rising Sun may have a bit of battles again. The conditions will be potentially drier because it will not be wet and it will not be dark, but it'll be interesting to see what the guys can do here. So thank you so much for joining us in the commentary box, Will, this evening. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we shall see what will happen within the title will happen. So without further ado, guys, we're going to sign off and we'll see you. Hopefully Will can emulate what you've seen here tonight in the British touring cars on Friday, and hopefully Moz can chase James Stephen in the Porsche Caymans. But be sure to catch us on the Eldar Sim YouTube channel as of Friday, and if we don't see you then, have a good Christmas and a good New Year. Bye for now.
Take care.